Who is in our newsroom now, former member of the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force. Does this strike you as a revenge attack? And if so, the question is, what kind of revenge? Is it anger against Muslims in general, blaming them for a spate of attacks, or is it radical Islamic jihadists who are angry that this particular mosque is reformed?
There are two important points here. Point number one, the police were able to capture this individual alive. And that leads us to point number two. By having him alive, they're going to be interviewing him, and they're going to be doing a lot of background on him as we're speaking to find out what his motive was. Now, the motive could be one of a number of things. First of all, if it is terrorism, the police will establish any connections he may have with other groups. It may be revenge, which will lead you to terrorism, or it can be some crazed individual who decided to plow his car into those individuals at that point in time and at that place. This is why it's critically important that the police get this right the first time, because what they put out there is going to cause, one way or the other, is going to cause a lot more problems for Great Britain, and particularly that city of London.
What's striking about this, Steve, is how almost identical it is to what happened 3 weeks ago on the London Bridge. 3 suspects in a van running people down, jumping out, and stabbing people with knives. Now, according to a couple of eyewitnesses here, there were 3 suspects, and at least one of them jumped out of the van after hitting the people and began with a knife, wielding a knife, and stabbing at least one individual. I mean, the identity of those two, how identical they are, is pretty striking.
Well, it is, and it certainly leads to one to conclude, without getting all the evidence at this point, that this was a type of a revenge, maybe a crazed individual who wanted to copy exactly what happened to the victims on London Bridge. Maybe he decided, well, you know what, in his mind, I'm going to show you. Well, the fact of the matter is that people cannot do these things. You're an innocent person, whether you're a Muslim, a Catholic, a Jewish person, or whatever. Innocent people should not be targeted when it comes to these political issues. But we have crazed individuals out there who will do things like this. And the concern now is, to be frank with you, is when another individual saw what took place tonight, are they going to be copycats? So this is why I could tell you right now, the police are going to be very careful on how they proceed with this further.
Is it true that invariably in these incidents, police arrest a great many other people who were not there at the scene but were involved in a conspiracy?
Well, certainly if they find through interviewing this individual or through other eyewitnesses that there are 2 or 3 others that were on that scene, and they do have enough evidence to take these people, and they will, without advertising it, because that would compromise their investigation. Maybe this is the case, but we don't have enough information now to identify this either as a terrorist act or something else.
Well, as you two were talking about just a moment ago, 3 weeks ago when we saw this in the London Bridge, is London doing enough? 3 weeks ago, we saw almost this very thing, and like you're saying, there's a good chance you could see another one. These copycat attacks. What do we do? Where do we go from here?
That's a good question. How do you stop an individual who has a deranged mind, whether they're a terrorist or not, from plowing into a group of people? It's a very, very difficult thing to do to stop these attacks. It depends on whether this is a terrorist attack that was planned or just some crazed individuals. Look, crazed individuals you cannot stop. Terrorist attacks, you can do a lot more of gathering of intelligence and information to, at the very least, prevent something like this from happening.
Steve Rogers, we'd like for you to stick around. We have many more questions for you and our other guests, Rick Grenell, James Kirchick, who has been kind